In this video, we are going to solve question number 16 of ACCA paper F8 Audit and Assurance related to session September 2016. We will start from reading the questions first. Part A. Describe two methods for documenting sales system and for each explain one advantage and one disadvantage of using this method. I think this is not related to the scenario, so we need to answer this question from the theory. For documenting any system, there are three methods. One is the narrative notes, second one is the questionnaires, and third one is the flow charts. We will see in detail later. Part B. Identify and explain 7 deficiencies in the sales system of Heraklion and provide a recommendation to address each of these deficiencies. This is 14-mark question. He asks for 7 deficiencies and the related recommendation. He asks for identify and explain. These are two different things. I will explain this also later. Part C. In relation to the payroll fraud, so this means there will be some fraud in the scenario. Identify and explain. Again, identify and explain. 3 controls Heraklion should implement to reduce the risk of this type of fraud occurring again, and describe how it would mitigate the risk. So this is also 6-mark question. You have to explain 3 controls and how it will reduce the risk. D. Describe substantive procedures the auditor should perform to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence in relation to Heraklion's revenue. So here to note, part A is related to theory, part B is related to the sales system, part C is related to the payroll fraud, and part D is related to the revenue. And we can expect 3 different paragraphs in the scenario. So let's move to the question. Read the question with the mind to answer our questions. Heraklion is a manufacturer of footballs and is a new audit client for your firm. You are audit supervisor of Spinalonga and are currently preparing for the forthcoming interim and final audit for the year ending 31st October 2016. You are required to document and assess the sales system, recommend control improvements to lead with a specific fraud issue, as well as undertake substantive testing of revenue. Whatever he asks in the questions, the same sentence he has given in the scenario. Sales ordering, good dispatch, and invoicing. You can expect the answer of part B in this paragraph. Heraklion sells football to a range of large and small sports equipment retailers in several countries. Sales are made through a network of sales staff employed by Heraklion, but new customer leads are generated through a third-party company. Sales staff are responsible for assessing new customers' creditworthiness. This is going to be a deficiency. How the sales staff can assess the creditworthiness of the customer? It must be from any credit rating agency who is specialized in the field and proposing a credit limit, which is then authorized by the sales director. It is authorized by the sales director. This is okay. Sales staff have monthly sales target and are able to use their discretion in granting sales discounts up to a maximum of 10%. Then they record any discount in the customer master data file. Means they have access to the master file of the customers. This is also a deficiency. They can record anything. Sales staff visit customer sites personally and orders are completed using 2-part printed order form. 1 copy is left with the customer and other copy is retained by a salesperson. The sales order number is based on the salesperson's own identification number. It should be sequentially numbered. Otherwise, you will lose some sales orders. The company markets itself on being able to dispatch all orders within 3 working days. This is the expectation that has been created in the minds of customers. Once the order is taken, the salesperson emails the finance department and warehouse dispatch team with the customer ID and the sales order details and from this pick list is generated. He is sending an email without any copy. They may dispatch wrong items to the customer. And one more thing, when they are booking the order, they are not taking confirmation regarding the availability of the stock. This is also going to be a deficiency in the sales system. Sequential number good dispatch notes are completed and filed in the warehouse. It's good. Sequential number invoices are generated using the pick lists for quantities and customer master data file for prices. It's okay. Standard credit terms for customers are 30 days, and on a monthly basis, sales invoices which are over 90 days outstanding are notified to relevant salesperson to chase payment directly with the customer. The salesperson are responsible to chase the payment. There would be a credit control department who should chase the payment. And one more thing you have noticed, the standard terms are 30 days and the salesperson is notified after 90 days. This is also going to be a deficiency. Payroll fraud. The finance director, Monse Mirable, has informed you that a significant fraud took place during the year in the payroll department. This is related to the part C of the question. A number of fictitious employees were set up on a payroll and wages were paid into one bank account. This bank account belonged to two supervisors. This means collision of employees who were married and were employed by Heraklion. One had sole responsibility for setting up new joiners in the payroll system. Sole responsibility. There were no segregation of duties. And other processed and authorized bank transfer requests for wages and supplier payments. There were no checks from the director. These employees no longer work for the company, and Monse has asked the audit firm for recommendations on how to improve control in this area to prevent this type of fraud occurring again. Heraklion operates a human resource department. So, moving toward the A part, I briefly make the notes for all parts of the question. Let's see. Answer for the part A. We have to give two methods for documenting the sales system. One is the narrative notes, which is written description of the sales system. And the advantage is that these are simple to record. That's why they facilitate understanding of the employees. And the disadvantage is that it is difficult to identify missing internal controls. If there are missing controls, we cannot identify from the narrative notes because these are only the details, description. The second is the questionnaires. There are two types of questionnaires. One are the internal control questionnaires. We are using this to know whether the controls exist. And the second one are internal control evaluation questionnaires. This is used to know the effectiveness of the controls which are already exist. The advantage of this questionnaire is that these are quick to prepare and can be used for a lot of customers. And the disadvantage as well is that there is a standard questions. You may miss some controls which are specifically related to that client. Let's move towards part B. We have to give 7 deficiencies and we have to give 7 recommendations related to that. And there are 2 parts, identify and explain. By using this 2-column approach, I make some words in red because most of the students are losing marks because they are missing these red explanations. Examiner had told you that identify and explain deficiencies. What the students are doing, they are just identifying, not explaining. So these reds are explanations. Here in the sales system, as we already discussed, the credit worthiness of the customer is assessed by the salesperson. There is a credit risk. Maybe he is not credit worthy and you are going to sell them. Maybe the Heraklion will be unable to recover the money for the sale. So the recommendation is that it should be checked by any credit agency. Second one, see the sales staff are granting the discounts. Maybe they are giving unauthorized discounts to increase their sales. So the recommendation is that directors or supervisors should undertake this role. The third deficiency is that salespersons are having access to the master file of the customers. It creates a risk of fraud. Maybe they can make changes in the master file and Heraklion will lose its revenue. So the recommendation is that only supervisor can make changes in the master data file. Fourth one, as we already discussed, once the salesperson book the order, they are not taking confirmation from the company for the availability of the stock, and the company markets itself, they will be able to dispatch the orders in 3 working days. So this can lead to the customer dissatisfaction if the orders are not fulfilled. So recommendation is that there should be accurate assessment of stock before confirming any orders. Fifth deficiency is that sales orders are based on the salesperson's own identification number. By this way, you cannot verify the completeness of the sales orders. So the recommendation is that sales orders should be sequentially numbered to know the completeness of the sales orders. If anything is missing, it can be identified and resolved within a time. The sixth deficiency is that salespersons are sending emails from where the pick list is generated. Again, there will be mistakes while generating pick lists. So the recommendation is that send one copy of the sales order to the warehouse directly. And the seventh deficiency is that salespersons are used to chase payments. So means they are giving less time to the sales. This is also a deficiency in the sales system. The recommendation is that the company should appoint credit controller. Moving towards part C, in relation to the payroll fraud, identify and explain 3 controls and how it would mitigate the risk. The answer to this part is we have to recommend the controls. So from the start, the first control will be every newcomer should complete the joining form approved by the manager of the department and the HR manager. This will create a segregation of duties, and any one employee would not be able to set up fictitious employees. Second control, we can recommend that a check will be performed to identify the identical bank accounts in one payroll. This will prevent multiple fraudulent payments. If you will not have more than one bank account in the payroll list, it would not be possible to make more than one payments to one employee. And the third control which we can put in the payroll sheet should be authorized by a senior. It will create a segregation of duties and no one employee would be able to make transfer without the authorization of the senior. Moving towards part D, describe substantive procedures. Means substantive audit procedures the auditor should perform to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence in relation to Heraklion's revenue. So answer to the part D, we had to describe what procedures auditor should perform to obtain audit evidence. Here also I wrote something in red that most of the students are not writing in the exam, then losing marks. Here you have to describe procedures and you have to tell the examiner why you are performing procedures. Means what evidence you are going to get. Suppose the first audit procedure would be to compare the current year revenue with the previous year and with the budgets to identify any fluctuations and investigate further. By just comparing revenue with the previous year and with the budgets is not enough. What you are going to confirm. So you have to identify fluctuations and investigate further if there are unexplained differences. The second procedure would be to select a sample of invoices and agree the prices back to the price list in the master data file. Why? We have to check the accuracy of the invoices, that the invoices which has been shown for the ledgers, these are accurate. The third procedure would be to check the cycles. We have to take the sample of orders and agree with the dispatch notes, and we need to check the sales invoices has been generated for those dispatch notes, and we need to verify in the sales ledger and then with the revenue ledgers. This will show the completeness of the revenue. The fourth procedure which we can perform will take a sample of dispatch notes both pre and post year end to check these has been recorded in the correct period to verify the cutoff. This is also related to the completeness of the revenue in the exact period.